welcome everyone. Today we have the CEO of Preferred Coffee, Jake, with us. So hi Jake, welcome on the podcast.
Thanks.
Maybe we can start by learning a bit more about you and like how do you come about this sustainable coffee concept?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. I studied neuroscience. I was a tennis player growing up and always loved science, always loved startups. So my first job, I worked in a biotech startup in Tel Aviv. Along the way, I learned that you can use biotech, but in food, and that's called FoodTech, and found that to be pretty amazing. I was an investor in FoodTech for a while, and then came up with this idea of Prefer about 2 years ago with my co-founder who I met here in Singapore.
Okay, that's very cool. So is it like, so when did you first come to Singapore?
I came to Singapore end of 2022.
Okay, so right after COVID.
Right after COVID, yeah, it's good timing.
Yeah, so then were you like looking to start a company here or do you come down and then you just got into it?
No. None of this is part of the plan. Came to Singapore for two reasons. One being I was working at a venture capital fund in Tel Aviv, investing in food technology, and they wanted me to come scout for food startups here in the region.
Okay.
And two, I finished my MBA at NUS. So I came here for work and school.
Yeah.
And then while finishing my degree at NUS, that's when we started Prefer.
That's quite cool. So initially, in a sense that, so you came here to like learn about food tech. I think one of the companies that we do very well in Singapore is food tech companies compared to other ones.
Yes.
So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that's true or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the reason I came here. Food tech, from my perspective, food tech from my perspective is being pushed forward the most here in Singapore in terms of regulatory approvals for things like cultivated meat. And so when I moved here, it was the only place in the world that you could buy and sell lab-grown meat or cultivated meat. So there was obviously a lot of work and innovation getting put in Singapore for food tech. So that's why my fund investing in food tech wanted me to come here specifically. And that's when I met my co-founder here, who's a food scientist, and we came up with the idea of Prefer.
Oh, very cool.
So like, how did the switch happen? Like, how did you became from someone who's from a VC looking to invest into starting a startup in Singapore?
So I've always wanted to start something of my own. I've started a few different things in my life that was someone called like side hustles, but I've always sort of been an entrepreneur. And I sort of use the time as an investor just to learn from like the smartest people in the world about what technologies they're commercializing or what's in the lab, what are some of the problems in the industry, and sort of use that time as a VC to kind of create my own theses about what I would one day want to start. It's still starting a company here was not part of the plan, but sort of one day I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, that's quite nice.
That's really cool. I wanted to ask you this, right? I always had this question because in entrepreneurship, I've always done tech. And whenever I see a company doing things like in a sense, like products like this, right? But my question is like simple questions like, how do you learn how to get the can? Like, how do you source this out? Like, do you have experience in like all these like manufacturing supply chain stuff, or do you have to learn it?
No experience in this. But this can in particular, we knew that we wanted to get it into a canned product, canned format. So you do a search. Who are some of the can manufacturers around Southeast Asia? Speak to some other friends who have canned products. Where do you do it? Go to 7-Eleven, look at all the canned products, see who the manufacturers are, and then just do a mass reach out. And then once you have sort of your top few, you go into like research and development with them to try and create a product together and basically like may the best manufacturer win in terms of taste, quality, price. So we ended up going with this facility in Vietnam who has the cans. We design all the labels and all the artwork and then send it to them, and they make it, print it, brew it, and send it back.
Wow, this is very Gen Z. I like the fonts and everything. Was that the intention here, or?
Yeah. It's definitely. Yeah, we're not trying to recreate habits of people like later in their lives. We're trying to really focus on people who are just getting into coffee, trying to learn about coffee, and yes, definitely the Gen Zs that we're looking after.
Yeah. So back then, like the way that I came across Prefer at least was that I went to an event and I saw you there, like by yourself back then, and you gave me like a cup of coffee and then I drank it and it's like, how is it? And I'm like, it's great. It's very nice. And say, it's not made of coffee beans. And I was like, oh my God, really? So tell me
false marketing on my end. What event was this? Which one?
I think it was, I cannot remember. I think it was something in collaboration with some either SMU or NES event,
Okay.
like NUS event.
Okay.
And I was there. So the event, they had a few VCs there.
Okay.
It wasn't like, it wasn't really about like, in a sense, coffee or anything. It was just a normal event.
Okay.
And you were there by the corner, trying to give people like a taste test
Yeah.
and asking for feedback.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. I was like, you know what, like you're really down there and you're doing it.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about that. Right?
I mean, we're a serious business. Like we have really ambitious goals, and we really want to be great. So I mean, what it takes to be great is doing the work and getting with the people and getting real feedback. So yeah, I mean, that's just my job. That's just part of the work.
That's right. So going down there and doing it in a sense. So maybe like I also want to get into like the early days, right? How do you get that feedback, like in a sense that, because when you talk about you get it manufactured and then you need to work with them to, in a sense, get the brewing process sorted out and then all those things. But then there's also part of like what's people's taste, right? So how do you go about navigating, right? Like or what do people prefer in a sense? And then like recreating that with the manufacturers. Like what was the feedback process, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mean, we work with the data that we have.
Yeah.
We get people to share their feedback, and then we go and write it down. We have lots of data about what people like or don't like. The reality is, in food and beverage, everybody likes different things. So we can just do our best to please, I guess, the most amount of people.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole idea behind this product as well. Around 80% of coffee here in Singapore in particular is drank with milk and with some sugar.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of people here are lactose intolerant.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah. And so we wanted to make a product that was still with milk, still a little bit of sugar, but dairy free,
Yeah.
and so everyone can really approach it.
Yeah.
But even with the sugar, we want to be a healthier option, so it's a lower sugar option is still a B grade.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try to just like use what we're hearing from
Yeah.
consumers, from customers, and create a product that would be most liked by them.
Yeah. That's very cool. Now I'm gonna open the can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm talking about it. I'm like, I want to taste this thing.
Yeah, have you had it before?
No, just that day.
Yeah.
After I think this can thing is new, right? Mm-hmm. Or yeah, because I know that you do ice creams and you do espresso martinis. Maybe I probably drank the espresso martini somewhere
Good.
because you're so many places, but I didn't know they was preferred, right? Yeah.
So we launched these cans like 3 months ago. So we're
quite recent.
Yeah. So we're nationwide at Guzman y Gomez. It's meant to be a really chocolatey and nutty flavor,
Yeah.
quite approachable for everyone.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like especially younger people, can't drink coffee that's very acidic or like
Right.
really intense. So we're actually just trying to make this really smooth, enjoyable drink.
Yeah.
It is caffeinated, so just like coffee, same
Yeah.
amount. And yeah, that's the product that we
That's
came
right.
out with.
No, it tastes quite nice. It tastes like how do I describe it? You know, or maybe I shouldn't say that. Like I don't know, but in a sense that
No, go ahead. You can say whatever you want.
no, because I was like, oh, but you know, like it's so one of the coffees that I really really like that comes in like a bottle is Outside. I think
Yeah.
Outside makes very good coffee, right?
They do.
It's in a sense it's because they have a certain fragrance to it. I always felt like whenever I drink it, I'm like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
I think I can have that fragrance kind of thing over here because
Yeah.
I think that really comes when you have like the coffee
Yeah.
and then you have the oat milk,
Yeah.
right? And then it becomes like a really nice texture and kind of like, you know, that kind of fragrance. I don't know how you do it without the coffee bean, but if again, like I taste coffee here.
That's good. Yeah, I mean that's the point. It's supposed to recreate the experience of drinking coffee, but
Yeah.
just without relying on the bean that is in danger and getting expensive.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's good. It's comparable to another coffee experience that you've had.
Yeah, really quite nice.
Yeah. So I think in that sense, right, since all of these are like quite new, right? I think for the aspiring founders out there, they are like looking to launch like a new product as well. So like maybe you can help them like how did your first MVP come about? Like especially in the food business.
Yeah, so I think before even thinking about launching products, you think about the why and you think about the problem to solve. So, I mean, that's where it all starts. So make sure that there is like a real problem to be solved for a consumer or for a business. So in our case, the problem to be solved is that the price of coffee is getting very expensive. And so we can be a more affordable option for large food and beverage companies to blend in our ingredient and then basically have it within their products for their customer, so they can bring the cost down. This is just really a reference design for large companies to see what can be done with the ingredient. So before launching a product, you're just really, really clear about who's your customer and what's the problem. And then you just get scrappy. Like if it's a food product, you just get in the kitchen, start making, like for us, for example, we were just fermenting stuff in a bunch of jars all over our kitchen and roasting stuff on the oven. And, I was walking around with like just brown unlabeled powder like on me all the time and just like, hey, try this. They're like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. So yeah, that's just like what you got to do in the early days of being scrappy and having no money and got to figure it out. So just using what you got with your friends and people around you to give you feedback.
So primarily then so if I understand the problem here correctly, it's like for a business because they need to get so much coffee because of coffee products. Like you have like, for example, espresso martinis or ice creams and other stuff becomes very costly because coffee product, like the bean harvesting or like the amount of beans produced is going down. And then the price goes up.
Exactly.
But coffee is like the business who does like has a coffee flavor and if it works, they really need the coffee flavor. And that's where you come in.
Exactly.
So in a sense that because you don't use the bean, you're not relying on that market, like the bean market. And then you can consistently produce like in a sense the same flavoring, but then business mechanism for them at least becomes simpler. If I get it right.
Exactly. So, I mean, for us, our coffee ingredient, the ingredient that goes within making our products and also powers other consumer packaged good brands, is around 50% more affordable than Arabica coffee beans.
My goodness, 50%.
Yeah, and
that's amazing.
85% or 8 times less carbon footprint. So for companies who are blending and prefer at around 50% prefer 50% coffee, they're able to really significantly reduce their costs and also create an overall product that's quite less carbon intensive too. So that's really the focus in the business model of Prefer. And again, we just launched this can as a way to have a reference design for those larger food and beverage buyers.
Oh, so you're going to sell this to the food and beverage buyers in the sense that one day Poca will be using the Prefer technology, let's say, right? So that when I drink the Poca coffee, it can be like either from the bean or from the Prefer flavoring. Is that the goal here?
I have no comment about that. But that's the goal. And in terms of the B2B side, it's actually much more lucrative in terms of revenue and sales as well. We've actually signed over $15 million of pipeline MOUs with B2B companies where they're basically just waiting for us to scale up to the production that they need, and then we could get into offtake agreements and commercialization. So that's really the focus of the goal, and that's the grander vision that we have at Prefer is as an ingredient provider for these large food and beverage companies, not just for coffee, but also with our next product, which is cocoa-free chocolate. Portfolio of products that we plan to make.
Wow, that's amazing. Cocoa-free chocolate. I need to try that.
But it all starts with this. This is like the first step to get there.
Then I think it ties in very well to the next section. It's like, since you're coming up with like something that is very, very new in like this market, probably like, I don't really think anyone has ever tried this before. But like, how do you like make this known? Like, how do you market your products?
On terms of marketing, we just try to make as much positive noise as possible through social media channels, my own personal LinkedIn, then as a team at Prefer on TikTok and Instagram. Going out and speaking at events, doing podcasts like this. We haven't spent any money on marketing to date.
That's amazing.
We're not opposed to it down the road, but we really want to make sure that when we do go spend money on marketing, we know exactly what channels we're targeting and consumers or businesses that we're targeting, and just making sure it's a good use of money. But for now, as we're still gathering data, we haven't spent any money on marketing yet.
So one thing I want to say is like your LinkedIn strategy is very good and it's very organic, right? I love like the different kind of edits that always comes out, right? It's like kind of like meme style, but like, but it's also like in a sense you get the point across, right? First it's like, before you started Prefer, were you already like doing well on LinkedIn, or is it like when you started Prefer and then you had to make a conscious effort to like grow your LinkedIn audience?
No, I was never posting on LinkedIn. And I wasn't planning on posting on LinkedIn so much. But then we learned pretty early that it was the best way for us to both get mass impressions and also get inbound. And so we sort of doubled down on that. It's like I mentioned, we just like try to test a lot of stuff and gather data. And one thing that we've learned is that LinkedIn is today our best channel for both impressions and inbound. So we just double down there and have an amazing marketing team that helps make those edits and try to make LinkedIn just a little less boring.
Less boring, yeah. And I always like, it stands out. I'll be honest, like you scroll down and then you know that, like, oh yeah, this is prefer, right? So you have that like, okay, yeah, great.
That's good. Yeah, you get like news article, we're thrilled to announce that. And just like me doing some random stuff with like a can of coffee.
Yeah.
Very obviously edited, but I think that's the whole point, is to get people to like stop scrolling for a second and just like grab attention in a platform where people are, I think, not optimizing for attention yet.
Yeah. So you see, like, you're able to get like inbounds from like LinkedIn. So, but then I assume like, okay, so my understanding of the market is that, for example, like these B2B players who are into like F&B, do they really spend time on LinkedIn? I don't know about that.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a professional platform. LinkedIn is a place where people get jobs. LinkedIn is a place where people stay up to date on the industry. They're always watching. And even when we go to meetings with them, they're like, I saw this post, I saw that post. Like, even if I didn't like it, or even if I didn't reach out, like, it's great to see you're doing this or that. So they're watching, and I see that from impressions, and I can see specifically, like, in terms of percentages of what industries see it, it's just food and beverage industry is like by far the people that are seeing my stuff. And so that's how I know that we're sort of making the right stuff and targeting the right audiences. So at this point, this would be when we're more comfortable thinking about, okay, how could we use a little bit of money to like really put the fire into that and really like push through it even more, now that we've sort of got it organically in a good place.
That's very cool, because I think that if you have a good organic reach on LinkedIn, then at least, I mean, you can get a lot of things done. It's not just about inbounds, but when you send someone a message, they're like, yeah, I saw you, right? It's like it's not like a new brand. It's a brand that you've been seeing it, because on LinkedIn, if I like something, everyone in my connection gets it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always like your brand is always there.
Yeah. That's a really good point as well. Like my percentage of replies on LinkedIn versus email, like they're both cold, is so much higher on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Just because there's some social proof that I am not a bot and I have X amount of followers and people are liking my stuff. And so I think that's just been a great, definitely the most effective way to have outbound when we do it is just being very specific about who we want to reach on LinkedIn, and then just going with just like connection and a short message.
Yeah. And that's amazing. So like for example, in tech products, we call it like build in public. I think your company is like an F&B version of build in public because your story is out there, and as you build things, people can see. Right. So like what you're coming up with, your struggles and other things. So that's actually quite cool. In tech, I think it's more common. People use like X now, or like Twitter before, to kind of build in public. So every feature they release, and then they will like push it out. But then yours is like similar on LinkedIn in a sense that like every new thing you all do, you push it out. And that becomes like a force, right? To see like, prefer is on a journey. Right. And then that's actually really quite cool. But then the first time, okay, one thing is to get, those decision makers onto a call. How was your first like sales, like conversion? Like how do you like get someone on a call? Like let's say a big company, right? You don't need to name it, but like a bigger player, right? And, converting them, right? What was the process like? What were some mistakes you did? What did you learn in the process?
Yeah, so for like the bigger players, keeping in mind like these are like 2 years plus sales cycles. Like if you go in the supermarket and you see any of those big brands, like those people are taking their time. And for them to launch something internally is going to take over 5 years. So for them to actually make a decision in 2 years, that'd be fast for them. So just knowing that going into it. The first meeting is trying to be very, very clear about the value proposition of our business. So really trying to be clear that we are not disrupting the industry. We are not competing with them. We're not launching products or asking them to launch products that are 100% bean free. We're looking to create blended products together under their brand that allows them to access the benefits of decreasing their costs, decreasing their carbon footprint, but maintaining flavors for the customer. So that's something that we need to be very, very clear about. If you look at any of our marketing materials, we never talk badly about coffee. I love coffee. I love other drinks. I love Coke Zero. I drink Prefer every day. I love it all. And so what we really want to be clear about is that we're trying to support the industry. And then after that, if they like it, then it would go into a sampling where we send samples to them, where the R&D team will play around with it, send us back some, and then we kind of go back on a two-way R&D collaboration where we're creating products together in our labs, testing different end applications, and then pushing it through to like procurement and then marketing, and then it gets commercialized. So those are the sort of steps that it takes to get a B2B deal done.
Yeah, and because so many steps are involved and so many people are involved, that's why like the sales cycle is really like
Very long.
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's actually very. I really like the point that you said that you first of all you said we are not going completely bean free. So it's not. It does not. And then it immediately goes from like a radical change or radical innovation to something that's incremental, right? And if you can get them to fall, it's easier for you to get someone to agree to something incremental because they understand some aspects of it, right? And then eventually down the road, you're leading towards a path. I mean, they're up to you whether you're going to choose that path or not. But that's really smart. Like you go to them and I'm like, hey, I want to go bean free because that's what I would have done if I was in your shoes. That would have been quite radical for them.
Yeah, it is. It's there is no incentive for them to launch that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there's no problem to be solved if it's just 100% bean-free coffee.
Yeah.
The problem to be solved is that people want less expensive coffee.
Yeah.
And so to create less expensive coffee, instead of creating a whole new category of coffee, you just blend and prefer with coffee still.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the majority of it still is coffee.
Yeah.
And then that allows the customer just to get the product at a lower cost. And that's really the problem to be solved.
Awesome. That's very good. I really like you align your incentives with them quite well. Like that's quite impressive. I have to say. Yeah. What do you think? What's the next section?
Yeah. So like moving on. Wait, sorry. So since you've been talking about how you've been launching on LinkedIn and how the traction has been very good, maybe at the start, right, were there any other platforms that you tested the waters a little, like posted a little here to see whether or not you get the traction?
Yeah, I posted a couple of times on X and gotten crickets in Singapore. But that's okay because that's not where like the buyer is. That's not where like head of R&D at these big companies are hanging out. So that's okay. TikTok and Instagram is super random. Like we don't really have it down to a science, but like what hits or not. Like we have a TikTok that gets 1 million impressions, and we get 200. And so it's like it's hard to know what really hits or not. So, but we keep going, we keep trying, but that's still not down as much into a science as LinkedIn is at this point.
So it's more like you're experimenting with like the different types of channels to see like what sticks and what maybe doesn't really stick.
Yeah.
But in a sense, so like what would your considerations be, for example, when you launched on X and maybe when you launched on TikTok versus LinkedIn? Is there a difference maybe like in terms of who you're targeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So on X, it's similar to LinkedIn, but more casual. So I was just trying to see if we'd get any inbound from there, like if people in food and beverage happen to be hanging out there and seeing posts. But yeah, that didn't really happen. And on TikTok and Instagram, it's completely consumer focused, like all about the can. Because in order for the can business to work, obviously consumers need to know it exists. Go to Guzman and go to these vending machines and go and buy.
It has to go viral, and people are like, it's visible, and they start to spread it.
Exactly. And then the more that this sells, the more we can show that to large B2B companies and say, hey, look how much consumers are liking this, look how much traction we're getting. So for them, that allows them to have it de-risked. So they can know they can use the ingredient and they know that the consumers will really like it because we're sort of doing that consumer work for them.
Okay. So in a sense, you're using this also to build the credibility in a sense to these businesses. They're like, it's already accepted. Then like, why not give it a shot? It's easier for them to make that decision.
Yeah, we see this as just part of the B2B sales cycle. So the better this does, the easier it is for us to make that 2 years become 1 year and just go a little bit faster.
That's a very interesting way to put it.
So that means the biggest question that when you try to sell prefer is probably, is the end consumer going to like it? And this is your way of answering it.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest hurdle in a sense, like when you try to like push it through.
That is one of them.
Yeah.
There are many hurdles. There's does it taste like coffee? Can you make enough of this? What formats do you make it in? Can I use that format in my operations? How do you market this? So like there's a bunch of different hurdles along the way, but that's definitely one of them.
So in that sense, then what were like some of the darker days at Prefer? Like since we're coming at it, right? So in a sense that like times where you thought that like, hey, I think that even like every founder sometimes sits back and questions what's going on and should I do this or should I, maybe, and one other thing I always feel is like when you're on the journey, you start seeing so many other ideas suddenly.
Yeah.
You're like, well, if I was doing that, right? When was like the darkest time where you thought that like, hey, maybe I should give up, and then what kept you going?
Yeah, so there's never been a time where I wanted to give up, or I've had that thought to date. But I'd say the hardest or darkest time is during fundraising. I think when you are just hearing up to 20 no's a week, getting all the reasons why it's not going to work, hearing over and over about how you should be running your business. It's hard to keep your vision clear, and it's hard to like maintain the mission and just do the work. You start second guessing a lot of the stuff that you're doing when you're hearing a lot of negativity all around you all the time. And like when we went and raised our seed round, we ended up closing $2 million, and it was huge success, and that's great. So people see headline prefer raises $2 million, but we know that we had 2 weeks of runway left, and that money didn't come in, then the business would have been over. So like we know the reality behind the scenes of the darkness and like the ups and downs, but headlines like tell a very different story. But yeah, just to answer your question, the hardest part so far and the most doubts come in during the fundraising process.
Yeah, because you send out the emails. The difference between sending out to customers and investors, good thing is like your customers probably reply in a more positive note. Isn't that a good thing?
Customers are great.
Yeah. Investors then come in and then it is like, because the problem with a customer is like, you can always say like, hey, maybe this person doesn't want it. Maybe it's not a priority right now. Give me 20 different things.
Yeah.
With an investor, you get a no, and then you get a very technical reason why it cannot work.
Yeah.
And that makes you think, right?
Yeah.
That like in a sense that, I mean, it's tough. Raising money is tough.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I think like the investor just doesn't really understand the business, and that's not their fault. They're speaking to like 10 companies a day.
Yeah.
But the thing that creates the most doubt in your mind is they're just like, I just don't see a path to this being like a company this big.
Yeah.
Whereas in my mind, I'm like, what do you mean? Like
Yeah.
this is of course going to be that big, and how can you not see it?
Yeah.
So it's a good learning in telling the story in a big enough way and sharing it in a way that can be easily understood about how it can be this thing that you know that it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful in communication, and always asking for feedback from investors about like, where did I go wrong here?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the hardest part so far, I think.
Yeah.
And I think especially right now in our industry, I think I saw this is the worst time to raise money in over 10 years for food and agriculture tech.
Why is that?
I think that a lot of companies a few years back made some really big promises and raised huge rounds, and most of them aren't doing much. So I think that a lot of the investors sort of burned in this industry. So it takes a uniquely great technology, commercializing uniquely well with uniquely good founders to do it, to even get a shot. Whereas before it could have been like average, and you get like a 10 mil check and go figure it out. But just the bar is much higher for founders to get through right now.
It's kind of like Gen AI right now, right? It's probably going to reach your industry within like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
I don't know
bring it
when.
here, man.
I don't know. Maybe that's when people are going to be like, okay, let's get back to food, right? At least.
It's crazy though. Like every time, like most investors right now are saying, "What's your AI angle?" And I'm like, "We have a bunch of data and we'll train it on it down the road, but like we're making food here." Like they're like, "So how are you implementing agents?" And I'm like, "What do you want? You want an agent that's gonna reply to my emails?" Like there's not too much uses like for that like cutting edge AI in our business, except once we have a bunch of data.
Yeah.
We do use AI to like automate some of our research in terms of like going through like papers and all that, just like set up our R&D. But there's definitely an AI obsession right now that I don't really have a great answer for investors.
That is crazy, and you're not supposed to have a great answer.
I don't know. I can sit there and lie to you and say that we are implementing like AI R&D scientists.
Yeah.
Like that's just not what we're doing.
I think real, like in a sense that good ideas, at least right now, either you have data and then you sell the AI, which is the model, right?
Yep.
Or AI is an enabler of something that couldn't be done at scale before, but can be done at scale now.
Yeah.
Especially like large language models, right? Yeah, it's been around for very long. Like we have computer vision and so many things.
Yep.
Now everything is about LLMs and multimodal LLMs. Pisses me off, at least as a tech guy. Because when someone comes and says like, oh yeah, so like when you make this AI agent, can you make it do this? Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah.
But it's AI. It's not deterministic, right?
Yeah.
It cannot be that, it's the same thing, right? Your coffee must taste consistent.
Yeah.
AI cannot be consistent.
Yeah.
At least generative AI cannot be consistent. So that's a issue. But I didn't know that they would ask these questions like to you. That's kind of crazy.
It's just like a checkbox.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all trying to create mandates around investing in AI, and they're thinking AI is going to disrupt every industry, which probably is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's enough reason for companies to change what they're doing just to like appease investors to answer that question better.
Yeah.
But I see that happening a lot in companies, just like so they can raise money. They're trying to find a way to use AI.
Create AI
Yeah.
to their systems.
Yeah, but that's like backwards because there's no real problem to solve. Like you're just doing things for investors to appease them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see the value in it to go and raise a bunch of money and then you figure out what to do. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, different strategies.
Yeah.
I want to get to the point that your company involves a lot of R&D.
Yeah.
Right? How is it managing that in a sense as a company, right? And do you have you published any papers? You plan to publish papers? Like how does this work? Like this R&D thing, how big is
That's a good question, and I will preface this by saying I don't manage the R&D.
Yeah.
I more manage our sales and marketing team.
Yeah.
My co-founder DJ manages the R&D.
Okay.
But we have incredible 3 scientists working on this day in and day out, really focused on creating more coffee flavors, creating new product lines like cocoa, and making sure they're in the right formats for the B2B buyer.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of research of other people's papers, and maybe one day we will be publishing some ourselves. We do have patents that we have created in-house.
Yeah.
And we're planning to scale up manufacturing. We'll toll manufacturers around the region, keeping R&D and creating patents a big part of our business.
Yeah. So I feel that as you scale, and one thing is creating it, and it's creating it at different levels of scale, right? So I think that your company, then that's also the value of a company, right? You come up with things that other people don't have a need to identify, but you need to identify because the business depends on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite cool. But that also means that you needed a lot of capital to start, and that's where the fundraising problem comes in.
Yeah. So, I mean, our first check was from Entrepreneur First. It was $100K.
Yeah.
That was enough to get my co-founder and I in a lab and create a product that was good enough to sort of get our first customer traction, allowed us to go raise around $2 million. And that allowed us to get into the space we're in today, which is like 7,000 square feet up in the north of Singapore, where we can have pilot production. We're at team of 15 today. So we've grown, and that's the scale that we're at right now.
Yeah. Quite cool.
Yeah, I think this brings up a very interesting area. It's like, especially for maybe like the food tech startup industry, right? What are like maybe some of the main struggles that you see? Like maybe you've met like other founders, right? And it's like they always bring up this struggle that they always have like challenges.
Yeah, raising money.
Other than that, it's like other than raising money, it's like, is that the biggest problem that they faced?
Raising money and the long sales cycle, but they're of the B2B buyers, because they sort of go hand in hand, because you need enough runway to be able to handle a 2-year sales cycle. But the investors want to see that sale done already. So it's sort of like a chicken and an egg. So you sort of need either investors that'll take a shot on you before you sort of have all of the de-risking done already.
That's true.
Or you need big food companies that are willing to speed up their process for you, which there's no real incentive for them to do that either. So it just means that there's a ton of companies that are sort of in this middle ground where they're a little bit too early for like that big round from investor because they don't have all the secured offtake. But then you have big food companies that just are going through their processes and they're not going to speed it up for you. So a lot of people in our industry get sort of stuck in this space, and this is where companies go to die.
Oh yeah, actually that really is, like when you talk about it like this, right, you can actually visualize that issue. It's like, whoa, you wish to really have to like do first.
Yeah, exactly. So that leads to a lot of companies doing like down rounds or bridge rounds just to like try and get another 6 months to see if they'll move. But reality is that in this case, they're going to get some like internal changes, so will move, and you get an additional 6 months. And so that keeps getting pushed back. And so it's sort of like what you think is the goalpost is always moving. So it's just really hard to know how much money to be spending on growth versus just like trying to maintain what you're doing. So most companies in the industry now are just trying to survive and get through this period where there's not much funding. But the great ones right now, they're raising money and growing. And that's why you're seeing, in our industry right now, you're seeing a lot of companies that are really creating separation from the pack right now.
because they were able to raise at the right time.
They were able to raise some money and continue growing,
Yeah.
continue working on more large partnerships,
Yeah.
whereas other companies had to do mass cutting and can no longer put the R&D resources needed
Yeah.
to create these partnerships.
Yeah.
So yeah, great ones are great right now, but
Yeah.
most are failing.
Yeah. That brings me to the question, right? Is this kind of thing like primarily because of Singapore, Southeast Asia, and Asia? Because like my understanding is like, for example, in the US, in the West, right, story sometimes sells more than numbers.
Yeah.
But in Singapore, when you try to raise without traction, I think it's extremely hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's the story or the vision or the validation from research. If there's no traction, then
That's
it's
true.
very hard to get money.
That's
so, do you feel that as well?
Yeah,
or-
100%.
Yeah.
Not to generalize, but investors here look backwards at a P&L.
Yeah.
Investors in the West look forward at a financial model.
Yeah.
So it's just a very different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And having that conversation. So it's much harder to storytell on a P&L than it is to storytell on a financial
Yeah.
model. But yeah, I'm obviously American.
Yeah.
And I think venture capital works because of the power law
Yeah.
about what could be and
Yeah.
how big it could be.
Yeah.
Investing in strengths rather than weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we haven't seen huge exits here in the region.
Yeah.
There hasn't been the mentality that it could happen because it's always looking backwards,
Yeah.
focusing on getting to profitability a little bit too early, I think.
Yeah. And I think the main reason for that is that a lot of our capital comes from, in a sense, like the SMB. We are much more successful in SMB as being like the bedrock of economy than startups.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, I mean, I wouldn't say like all of West, or I wouldn't even say all of US, but US, at least certain parts of US have seen startups to be the reason that like they went up, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to take a bet on it.
Yeah.
But here it's mostly SMBs.
Yeah.
So then that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also on the other side of that, food tech companies raised a ton of money a few years back, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that was all storytelling.
Yeah.
And then that story didn't come true. And now all that money is gone. That
Yeah.
industry is burned.
Yeah.
And so it's not all good that you just listen to storytelling because
Yeah.
once you listen to a story, then you expect things to happen.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then it really crushes an industry. And so that's
Yeah.
where we're really at today. So this issue of raising money for food tech in particular
Yeah.
is not just Singapore, it's globally.
Yeah.
Because people don't believe the story anymore.
Also, even like everywhere, in a sense that because the capital, the amount of capital put in was a lot, and then kind of burst out, and then
Yeah.
now everyone is struggling. Like
So-
the good ones are struggling too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but the good ones are still raising money because they're great.
Yeah. Okay.
But the average ones are all
Yeah,
dying.
all dying.
So what I mentioned earlier about like the least amount of funding is going into this industry
Yeah.
for the last 10 years. Like this is the worst time to raise money
Yeah.
over the last 10 years. That's globally, not
Yeah.
for Asia, not for Singapore.
Oh.
So yeah, it's definitely a global thing, not a Singapore thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm getting really niche into food tech. This is what's going on?
fine, I think.
I'm sure you got more people talking about software in here, so I hope
No, that's why we
slightly
have you,
different.
because like we like in a sense that we get an insight into food tech,
Yeah.
right? So that's actually quite important because I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs, at least that I meet in Singapore, a good portion of them still want to work in food and F&B.
Nice.
One way that they go about it is they always start with like not something like, I would say yours is food tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people like to work on food, and then some people like to work on food tech, right?
Yeah.
So they'll start as a home business, then they'll go in front, but they still need to go through these challenges of like convincing NTUC to put their food on the table,
Yes.
right? And all those things. So that's why I thought that it's gonna be like quite interesting
Nice.
to have you on board. Because software is software. I mean, fine. Yeah.
We're having like the other angles of like even the food side, right? Will definitely help like a lot of people who are looking into this and like, oh, what are the challenges that they will need to consider.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we can start to wrap up this podcast. So we'll now move on to like one of our more interesting sections, which is the quickfire questions. So basically, I'll just ask you questions, and the first thing that comes to your mind, you just answer it.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's very simple.
You sent me these before? I think you left these out.
Of course. Right. So, what is first question is, what's the one tool that you cannot live without?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
There you go.
Oh, everybody is slowly coming out and answering ChatGPT already.
Yeah.
Same for me.
I gotta open in one window all the time.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do you use it for?
Copy.
Yeah.
For marketing, for emails, R&D. So doing
Yeah.
research with R&D.
Yeah.
Even with some legal work.
Yeah.
basically things that are usually mindless that I can use its mind to do instead for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you try the deep research thing? How do you find it?
That's another great thing. So Gemini Deep Research I use because we have a Google business account. So I will use that to create massive customer lists. Oh. So I'm like, okay, look up every single.
Create customer lists.
So this is actually what I use for sales. Is the deep research. So I'll like speak into it because I'll say okay, find all of the biggest buyers in order of volume that are either FMCGs with instant coffee, canned coffee, bottled coffee, private label retailers with those SKUs, flavor houses that have coffee, ingredient manufacturers that have coffee, and then basically section them by those that are in Asia, those that are not in Asia, and then it basically just comes out and I'm saying, like, give me 100 in each, and like just chronological order of size.
And it does.
And it does that. And I've got like 20, 30 page documents just of customer lists in bullet points with how much coffee they buy on an annual basis. And now I just use that for outbound, and I'm just like going down the list one on one. Just sending it out.
And that's the first thing I'm gonna try after I go back from this podcast. That's amazing. I didn't know that. Like I need to try that.
It's awesome. And I don't pay for. So I guess we have Google business account, so I think it comes with. But I don't pay for GPT, so I don't have access to deep research. But the Gemini deep research is pretty good.
Time to try it out.
All right, then moving on to the next question.
So that was not so quick fire.
I mean, dive into a little bit. Like it's more like the first part of
Okay. One word.
All right. So the next question is, what is one personal habit that has the biggest impact on your journey?
Working out every morning before work. If I don't work out, I get real demons. That comes out in a lot of negative ways. So, I mean, this morning I went for a 15K run.
Oh, wow.
Got my demons out, and I'm here and I'm in a good mood. If I didn't do that, I would have been probably, a little less positive.
Like, damn investors.
Working out, making that a habit, making that a non-negotiable part of
that's true. That's true. I think it's like having a balance, because I think as like startup founders, like it's like you get too hyper focused. You like really put a lot of time into the business, and like nothing else can really fit in. Having this kind of like compartmentalization, like I must work out in the morning before I start the day. That's pretty good.
It's good. I take an hour, I work out, I put podcasts in, I learn, put on 2x. So that's my learning time. Like that's my me time. So that's how I'm keeping up with like what are the different use cases of AI that we can be using, or different things outside of Prefer. Then always think about how we can use it within Prefer too. So that's my hour in the morning is crucial.
Oh, that's a very good advice right there.
All right, I could use it.
Okay, then moving on to the third question. What is the weirdest DM that your startup has ever gotten? Or like maybe for you, since you are more active there.
Weirdest DM, non-sexual?
Regarding the business.
Man, we get a lot. One that comes to mind, it was just like, I got an email and it was just like, bro, do you use plastic? And I was like, they're like this in our old cans, and I was like, we use plastic. And then this guy ended up basically being this company that would turn used plastic bottles into plants and sell the plants. So he wanted to basically use all of our used plastic bottles and turn them back into plants for his business. And that ended up being like a revenue stream for him, was using the preferred bottles for his business. So that was a crazy one that ended up being something pretty cool.
So the one message you got, bro, do you use plastic?
It was an email, subject line, bro, do you use plastic? Email, bro, do you use plastic? Shout out to that guy.
No, it's not AI, so that's good.
AI can't come up with that. That's too good. And I was like, yes. It ended up being good partnership.
Oh, that's cool. But I think it's like, it shows like how, just giving it a shot, just try to do something, right? Who knows, like quirky things like this might even get a reply.
Maybe he was a college kid. It was like his university project. Like it was cool. Like I was happy to support that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I got that email of all sales email. I remember that one. So that's kind of cool.
I would reply to that.
Let's do it. Like even when I'm doing outbound, it's like, bro, are your coffee prices okay?
Yeah.
And then the subject line, and then the first line, bro.
Bro marketing.
Exactly.
All right, then we will move on to like our last question. So now, pitch your startup in 5 words without using any buzzwords. This will be a little difficult.
Affordable and sustainable coffee and cocoa.
There you go. 40% coffee and cocoa. Okay, cocoa is a new product. So there you go.
Oh, I went over.
Oh, yeah, one over, but that's
One
still
over,
works.
but-
Coffee is there.
The coffee
Yeah.
is there.
I'll just put
That-
coffee/cocoa. Let's make it one.
I mean, what we really do is zooming out huge is affordable and sustainable
Yeah.
flavors.
Yeah.
And coffee and chocolate are the first flavors. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really just comes from the flavors.
Right. Okay. All right. Then I think that.
That screwed that one up.
Nice. I think you just try it. It's about five to six, but it basically covers it. It's like
People get commenting like, boy, can't up to 5.
Okay, but I think it's quite impressive that you even came up with like 6 words, right, to describe a startup. It's like impressive. It's like you really need to know like your whole business to like so succinctly describe it. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot of practice over the years.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, then I think that's the end of our podcast. So yeah, maybe you can tell our followers like how do they follow like your startup journey.
Yeah, so follow me on LinkedIn, Jake Berber, JakeBerber. Always posting where we are, what the updates are, the good and the bad. Follow us on Instagram for Coffee SG and TikTok for Coffee SG. And yeah, if you happen to pass by Guzman and Gomez or vending machines and the MRTs, we're in a bunch of them with these cans. So please do go support.
Yes.
Also, you can see all of our locations that we are at prefer.coffee. You should be able to remember that, prefer.coffee, and then just go on the map and you see all the locations. So appreciate all your support. Now you know all of our secrets, that this is really part of a much bigger plan, and you can see that we can use that data to go for world domination. Please go help us out. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you see this in a vending machine, you should try it out. It's really good. I approve it. Yeah.
Yes.
Approved.
Approved.
All right. Okay, then like for our closing statement, right, is if you can leave one sentence, right, on a post-it for an aspiring founder that, you know, has watched the whole podcast, what would it be?
For aspiring founders.
Yeah, like for aspiring or like those that, you know, already started on their journey.
Yeah. Let me think about this one a little bit. It's something, I don't know what, there's one of two things. One is just about like making sure that you're solving a problem, but that's pretty boring. The other thing that I think is really important is just being so damn gritty and being so resilient. And so I think the thing I would leave on a poster is just like, it's harder than you think. So be okay with that or don't do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
A lot of founders have said that. I think it's not a very easy journey, but I think it's a very rewarding journey. Like in the end, you see like the change and everything.
It is. No, it's the most fulfilling thing ever. So if you're okay with enduring incredible amounts of pain and just chewing glass and feeling that all the time, it's like on the other side of it, the greatest thing ever. So it's definitely a way to live life where you're feeling a lot and you're doing a lot and feeling proud of what you're doing. But it's not like always the most enjoyable. So take that as you will.
That's actually the best way to put it. I agree with that for sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Jake, for coming on this podcast. I think we learned a lot, especially like about food tech and about your journey as well and raising funds. Like amazing points. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.